Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, it is Saturday, man. Saturday college football, basketball roundtable with some great sports engineers. That's what we're calling it today. We're going to have a lot of fun. We got a special guest, one of our members of the board of advisors, is a regular contributor, Maury Gaston, the Marble Man from down in Birmingham. Is going to check in with us. Billy Roberts checks in from over in Atlanta. Mark Hamm, Rocky Top Tennessee Tailgate Report, checks in from Knoxville or wherever Mark may be. He is a traveling man. Buddy Martin joins us in hour number 2. God, I love that guy. The coach, the journalist, the writer, sports editor. He is what a sports writer is supposed to be. He's got opinions. He backs them up with facts, and he writes what he thinks, and he thinks what he writes. Just an absolute 5-star guest. We'll be with you the next 2 hours, as we are every Monday through Saturday. www.sidelines.live. Starting to get some traction picking up now as we're building the Sidelines Southern Sports Network. Radio stations, one by one, coming on board, like Kicks 96.3, Alexander City, Lake Martin. Proud to have them as a sponsor. 680thefan.com, the podcast park over in Atlanta. Dan Matthews, executive producer of the Chuck Oliver Show on Southern Sports Today. And Chuck Oliver, our friends. Hey, man, we talk college football, college basketball, college baseball, recruiting. We're a sports radio show and podcast. That's what we do. That's who we are. And follow us on Twitter. We really appreciate all of our followers. Didn't used to understand Twitter. About 8-9 weeks ago, we started getting after it and hired a social media director. We talk about sports. We don't get into all that other garbage, okay? We are your respite for 2 hours on the field of competition, the football field, the magical place, the basketball court, the baseball field. We love it. We talk with the coaches, the players, current and former, sports writers, TV personalities, people of substance, okay? We are about honest opinions. We're not afraid to tell you what we think because we will say it. Does the dress make me look big? You betcha. If that's the case, we're going to tell you. And if it doesn't, we'll certainly tell you as well. My producer, Mildred, is here with me right now. Mildred Scroggins, longtime producer. Pow. But anyway, a lot to cover today. We're getting into basketball, starting to get into some serious matchups today. I think the big one, and we'll talk more about it, Kentucky. What is going on with Kentucky basketball? Well, I started thinking about this when I was listening to Losing My Religion, REM song in the late 80s. They paid those guys in the late 80s, 87 or 88, an $80 million advance. They weren't around that much longer. They just fell apart. Now you're lucky to get $500,000 as an advance. But we think it's smart to pay 17, 18-year-old kids millions of dollars in NIL money before they've done anything. Think about it, folks. When you were at Atlanta, we did get some news this week, Billy, that I think the NCAA has actually passed along some legislation that might make some sense about the portal. Okay, if you transfer, you got to sit out. I mean, you can transfer one time immediately. The second time, and then after that, you've got to sit out, I believe, for a year. Now, every excuse known to man has been used. Some of them are legitimate, but the system was abused. The next thing we're going to see, probably NIL, again, the free market will collapse that. But Georgia fans still happy. Jeff Boone, isn't it great to be a Georgia Bulldog? Yeah, it is. That national championship beatdown goes down as the most resounding, most powerful statement I've ever seen in a college football, certainly in a national championship game. Alabama, Notre Dame in 2012, Alabama won 42-14. I honestly believe they could have scored on every possession. I don't know why they didn't, but they could have. Notre Dame got to the playoff and the championship 2 more times since then. Didn't really do anything. That's why Brian Kelly came to LSU. He inherited, a car on the side of the road in the ditch with 4 bald tires. That's what LSU was after the last 2 years of Coach O asleep at the wheel, but gets 10 wins his first year and beats Alabama. I don't know if the SEC, this was the greatest year ever. Only thing in debate is this Georgia team, it's going to be debated all year. They're going to be good enough for a three-peat. No one's ever done it. It's been tried. They've been close. The only team that's ever been close is Alabama, 64, 65. They were robbed in 66. Go read the book by Keith Donovan, The Missing Ring. Alabama, 2011, 2012, they were just beaten soundly in regulation. Give me a second to think about it. The kick 6, Auburn back in 2013. Georgia's going for the three-peat. Big debate right now, folks. Has Georgia wrestled control of college football away from Alabama? I mean, that is debatable. We talked about it last night at the Cherry Farm at the hunting club by the fire, drinking a few road sodas. And even the most ardent Georgia fan, Jeff Boone, Paul Wickenheiser, Boone said, no, Georgia has not wrestled control. I said, you just won back-to-back national championships. He goes, we're the hot dot for right now. But Alabama still the king. Ask anybody in Texas, who's the king? Bob Wills is still the king. That's just the way it is. So, good debate. Billy Roberts, Maury Gaston, the Marble Man, the pride of Sylacauga. Velma Goodgame is looking down today and saying, Maury, you're better than Ezra. But I want to say we're going to have some fun today. And, you look at what happened just this past week with the national championship. Billy, Maury, the Dogs win. They've won 2 in a row. I'm going to start over. Billy's in Brookhaven, not Atlanta, but right next to Atlanta. Are the Dog fans still barking and howling at the moon and saying, how about them Dogs? It's going to be on for a long time. And I've never known any Georgia fans to get rowdy and crazy. Have you?
Well, and the thing I've noticed is I think the breakthrough win last year after being, in a 40-year drought seemed to, unleash a lot of that emotion. But they were kind of matter of fact with this win last week. They was, and of course it was not in doubt at all after the first quarter. So they had a chance, to kind of anticipate that the game was going to go their way and kind of relax the whole time. So they didn't seem to have the same, unleashing of like, oh my God, this is going to be incredible. They much more matter of fact about it. So not overconfident about, the future. They know Alabama's going to reload and be tough. They a lot of them pointed to the great recruiting class that Alabama just signed up. So, they're pragmatic about it. I think they're very grateful they have Kirby Smart. They recognize that, it starts with him. He's, got great leadership, very good plan for how to run that program. He finds ways to motivate these kids. These poor coaches, they say the same thing day after day, year after year, and the kids tune it out at some point. And even the pros do that. I think NFL coaches don't last more than about 9 or 10 years because eventually they get tired of hearing your voice. So you got to, change it up. And but Kirby has found a way to keep motivating these guys. And next year, the three-peat opportunity will probably be his motivational tool, I would think.
Yeah, and Maury, you're there in Alabama. You come from your typical family in Alabama. Your dad, Auburn grad. Your mom, Alabama grad. Yeah. Your brother, Alabama grad. Your other brother, Auburn grad. Your wife, Alabama grad. Your daughter, Alabama junior. You, Auburn grad. You know how it is. Yeah. When David Pollock made some comments, which I think are fine. I don't know David Pollock, but he said right there with Nick Saban, he goes, Georgia has wrestled control of college football. And Nick Saban looked at him, and people are trying to make a big deal out of that. But what I love is Nick Saban, he's only 71 years old. He's not getting out of football. He just had the best recruiting class he's ever had, that Alabama has ever had. That's a powerful statement right there. You think Nick Saban is going to dig his heels in now. He's making some changes and going to come out ready to win. I mean, I don't see him stepping back at all. That's absurd. And Billy's right. The three-peat is motivation. Nick Saban, he's just Nick Saban, the process.
Well, this may very well serve to energize Nick Saban. And any opponent of his should shudder at the thought. I don't mean to be a wordsmith, but I think control is too strong a word for this.
Yeah.
I'm reminded of the words of Rod Bramlett when Auburn defeated Oregon. And he said, Auburn sits atop the college football world. And I think it's a very true and objective statement to say that Georgia currently sits atop the college football world. Now, how long they'll sit atop it, I don't know. But they're there right now. And if anything, it should serve to motivate others who wish to displace them atop the college football world.
Well, I think you're right, Maury, because Billy, we use this term, and I got this term from this book that I read regularly called Leadership Lessons of the Navy SEALs. And I saw it out at Fort Benning my 2 years as a TV reporter. Ranger instructors, they're not yelling at those guys nonstop. They in fact, they don't do it a whole lot. And exactly what your point was. He said if we did it all the time, they would just tune us out. They wouldn't listen. So you save it for special occasions. I watched Kirby Smart on an interview prior to the national championship game against TCU. He was asked exactly what you're talking about, Billy. He goes, how do you come up with this material? He goes, well, I study a lot. I look, but I find things, and you got to be different. But they got to know how much you care. They don't care how much you know. They got to know how much you care. And you got to invest in the guys you got on your roster. And Kirby's famous saying is, you're either elite or you're not. And everybody in that locker room, Billy, at Georgia, they're pretty much of a stud, or they wouldn't be on that roster. You're going to have guys go in the portal. But I got to say, too, though, everybody, and Billy, you started off your career at Georgia. You're from LaGrange. People say Georgia was wandering in the wilderness for 40 years. They're the 10th winningest football program in the history of college football. They may have moved up to number 9. Tennessee's 9th, Georgia 10th, LSU 11th, Auburn 12th. Georgia, is it even in debate? Because I asked this to Tony Barnhart. People question, is Georgia a blue blood prior to this beatdown of TCU? And I was like, of course they are. Billy?
Well, I think so, but you know, they were kind of in this rut, I guess, with Auburn and everybody else who's not Alabama. That a 9-win year gets your coach fired, 10 wins, he gets to stick around, and then you watch Alabama do better than that every year. I mean, if they lose a game, that's a catastrophe, and that's a standard that nobody else has maintained other than Alabama. And Georgia aspired to that. They let go a very good coach in Mark Richt. He was averaging 10 wins a year for a while, right?
Yeah.
Knocking on the door, but
15 years.
Couldn't make that breakthrough, but ran a clean program. Personally, a great guy.
Yeah.
There was no skeletons in his closet. The kids loved him. The alumni loved him. They had a lot of heavy hearts to move on from him. I mean, that was a divisive decision that was made over there, but you can't deny, that it was the right decision. And, Auburn gets a lot of stick for being impatient and having a trigger finger. But, Auburn understands, because they live right next door to Tuscaloosa, they understand what the standard is. And if they see that it's not happening, they will pull a trigger on a coach. They've done that. And if only because they are the closest proximity to Alabama and the standard of excellence that's there ever present all the time. And Georgia got a whiff of that finally and decided, we've got to do that too. We're going to have to bring in a coach that can get to that next level. 10 wins a year is nice. Doesn't win you championships. And I think that there was a nagging feeling that they had, like, we've got all these recruits around us, all these other schools that are coming in and poaching recruits. We need a guy that's, if not going to lock down the border, because that's not possible, but he's going to get and cherry pick, who he wants out of the recruiting area in Georgia, particularly the Atlanta area. And that's been a big change too, and you and I were in school, Rob, the school, Georgia high schools in South Georgia were preeminent and dominant. But as Atlanta grew over the last 35 years or so,
Yeah.
The focus has shifted to where the Atlanta area is where the recruits are. There's still kids in Valdosta and Warren Robins, and Auburn has made a living off of that for years. But it's not the same as it used to be. Now it's the Atlanta area, and heck, that's 40 miles from Athens. So all of that has played into their favor.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking, and Maury, we're going to get to you. I've got a series of questions I know that you sent me, and I want to address those after the break. But yeah, you think about Athens and its proximity to Atlanta, and depends on what side of Atlanta you're on. And Billy, you talk about there are 159 counties in Georgia. Well, there's 22 counties that make up Metro Atlanta now, 6.5 million people, and Georgia, they're crushing it in football. In basketball, you're like, where's the disconnect? But Mike White is trying to change that. And I go back to Auburn right there on the Georgia line. In the last couple of years, you talk to Georgia coaches and they're saying, well, Auburn, we don't see him anymore. That was the 2 years of Brian Harsin. There was a closed for business sign, which it's been easy since the virus for people to just sit on their butts, quit, stay home, go broke safely, and do nothing. Well, those days are over. Your days of sitting on your butt and not recruiting, it's over. Hugh Freeze is there now. So that's going to change things. But Nick Saban, he is the king of college football. Kirby Smart, it's a great competition. More right after this.
Hey y'all, it's Ainsley from Hewlett & Dunn, just coming to let you know about our new collection of boots. It's going to be our dress boots. They're the Horsepower collection, and they're genuine exotic leathers and really comfortable. Comes in all different sizes and patterns, so come check them out.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4 City exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Rob Browne here, Roundtable Saturday. Man, this is cool. Maury Gaston, the Marble Man, Billy Roberts, plow him up, Grangers from over in Brookhaven next to Atlanta, but not Atlanta. It's incorporated, Billy. And Buckhead soon. Buckhead soon is going to be Buckhead, not Atlanta. That's good. Buckhead and Brookhaven side by side could become Buckhaven. How about that? Who's going to get all that?
They've already got a little magazine, like a free newspaper that's called Buckhaven. That's what the title of it is.
I didn't know that was there. I just came up with that off the top of my head.
Yeah, you've coined a term that's just barely been out there, but it's out there.
Well, Maury was telling me in one of his recent visits with Mildred at the beach that, this is a pretty cool point. He says, Maury says, if you were the king of college football, what would you want to change about college football if you could wave the magic wand? Maury, what would you do?
Well, I'd do away with NIL, quite frankly, but I'd make it a very generous stipend, so to speak. The guys used to get what they call laundry money.
Yeah.
I think it was $15 a month.
Make it 20.
What does it take for a student to have a good life? $2,000 a month pocket money. So I don't see anything wrong with that. The value of what they're receiving with their education. We've talked about this. Neil Caudle's been on your program and talked about how he understood the long view.
Yeah.
You play college football for a major program or even a minor program that's got a strong following. That opens up so many career opportunities for these folks, and the networking and relationship building opportunities that they have are absolutely priceless.
Yeah.
So now, how do you enforce? How do you put the paste back in the tube after NIL? It's going to be really, really hard. But if I were king of college football, I'd do away with NIL. I'd bump up the stipend to probably $2,000 a month, and try to, as much as we can, go back to the way it used to be. I hate to sound like the old man that I am, but
Well, okay, there's nothing wrong with that. I totally agree, but I think 2,000's way too much. Well, wait a minute here, Mildred. Like, you're going to give a kid, these student athletes, they have room and board paid for. They have all their meals paid for. Healthcare. That's $2,000. That's $500 a week to just spend on going out and well, they may have a car payment, Audrey says. Yeah. Far be it from any college football player ever to be driving a new car that he didn't pay for.
They got a car title, not a car payment.
Yeah, they don't have a car. Yeah, Mildred. Billy. No, but Billy, again, Maury doesn't sound like some old man, as Chuck Oliver says. I'm not some old man out in my front yard yelling at the clouds, but Maury's making sense. And Billy, you and I were at Auburn together. I'll say this. If there's any tomfoolery or chicanery or malfeasance going on, I never knew about it. But anyway, go ahead.
Well, you mentioned something a long time ago when you first started this podcast about, and it come from your background of doing wealth advising, that they could take this money and put it in some type of a trust where you get a little bit of it, on milestones, like when you're 25, when you're 30, when you're 35, when you're 40, because everybody's life, has time taking its toll on it. And wouldn't it be nice if you are a 40-year-old former college football player that maybe never played in the NFL, but you were good in college, and that probably describes about 85% of the players that are on these rosters now. Wouldn't it be nice when you're 40 that you have some money sitting there that you're going to receive on your 40th birthday that you earned when you were 20 years old, and nobody stole it from you? You didn't have street agents or well-intentioned family members that wanted to invest it in a car wash or some crazy thing, right? What if that money was there? What if you had $50,000 in NIL money that you got on your 40th birthday because a trust was set up, maybe even managed and administered by your school, truly in your best interest, and knowing that, the 20-year-olds don't think about what am I going to be doing when I'm 40? They just think it's going to be great. And you and I know people get divorced, people get sick, life happens. You lose a job, you lose 3 jobs, and wouldn't it be great if every 5 years you had some NIL money coming your way?
Yeah, we talked with Ben Troop on the show this week about that. And he played 5 years in the NFL. He's got that pension for life. But Ben also is a very smart guy. Ben's got a lot of irons in the fire. I mean, Ben Troop would be successful if he parachuted in to the White Sands Missile Base out in New Mexico. He'd find a way to be successful. He's got that Bobby Dodd type of mentality. I will say it's called an age-banded trust, Billy. And again, I've never had ever a family dole out millions of dollars to an 18 or 19-year-old kid. At the earliest, they get their feet wet with a little bit of money at 25, then 30, 35. You get your big money at 40. Then you got the incentive-based trust. For every dollar that you earn from your job, you get $1 or $5 as it goes along from the trust. You smoke dope all day, lay around eating, Cheez-Its and don't show any desire. You're going to just eat a lot of Cheez-Its and smoke a lot of dope and have no money, And as far as the well-intentioned family members, that is a problem. I've talked to sports agents who have told me this. They said, you try as hard as you can to get these guys to go on a budget. Billy, Maury, we've all got kids. I mean, I've got 4 of them, 2 boys, 2 girls. And the greatest thing you can do is what Brother Joel told me one time at Christian Brothers High School. Mr. Browne, although the air conditioning is not working, we have to study the material here in this English class. Remember, it is better to suffer. It doesn't hurt, it doesn't hurt to suffer and go through, because anything worth having, Maury, is worth fighting for. What would Velma Goodgame do today if she were grading the papers of a lot of these bloggers out there in social media? What would she do?
Well, a punctuation error was a full letter grade debit. So, and we had to put the rule that told us to use that item of punctuation above the item of punctuation.
Yeah.
Rule number 9 was use a period at the end of a complete sentence. So every time you put a period in your paper, you had to put a 9 above it and circle it.
I love that. And when you talk, when Buddy Martin joins us in hour number 2, think about that, Billy. Think about, Billy, your dad at 87, civil or mechanical engineer?
Mechanical,
yeah. Maury, you love his dad. My dad's 94. Yesterday, I'm over there with my dad. He's on the exercise bike. Then he gets off and starts lifting weights. He's 94.
Wow.
And I took a video and sent it to all the grandkids and said, it's good to have genes like this,
No question. I was just thinking that, Rob.
Oh, Billy, I was with your dad and you the weekend of the Auburn, Arkansas game. Your dad, Billy, Maury, his dad is a mechanical engineer. Is he designing the float for Mardi Gras this year down in LaGrange up on the square?
He is indeed a brand new one. And
wow.
it is a full-size, trailer-sized dinosaur with lights for its eyes, smoke coming out of its nostrils, and moving arms and legs and a moving tail. It's got electric servo motors moving all of these body parts. And this thing is 14 feet long and 8 or 9 feet tall. It's amazing. So yeah, he does one every year.
We got to get a video of that for the show.
Yeah, it's incredible.
When is the weekend of the parade this year?
It's the weekend before Fat Tuesday, so it's probably about the 8th of February or something. I'll find out. Yeah,
I think because I know we got the Senior Bowl coming up that first Saturday in February. All right, along the lines, guys, of college football now, you talk about who is the king. I asked this to Mildred during the break, my producer, Mildred Scroggins, and she said there is no king of college football, but there is a king conference, the SEC. And then I look at the Big 12. I thought the Big 12 top to bottom this year was the second best conference in college football. The Big 10, you just can't say that. You got Ohio State and Michigan with all their minders in the national media that, by God, if it shorts everybody on the Congo, they're going to make sure that a Big 10 team is in the college football playoff, or 2 of them. And that's because 70% of the TV sets in America are in what's called the geographical footprint of the Big 10.
Southern Cal and UCLA.
Yes, that includes Southern Cal and UCLA. Right. So, and I don't know how much college football interest there is in the Valley down there. Looking at the attendance of some of those UCLA games, I'm like, really? I mean, there's probably more people in Scoop's Candy Shop up on the square in LaGrange, Georgia, than there are in a lot of the UCLA home games. So we'll see about that. But ACC is coming on. I feel, guys, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say this. That giant sucking sound that Ross Perot used to talk about NAFTA, that giant kind of sucking sound I'm beginning to hear and feel is Florida State Seminoles. This is Gene Deckerhoff. Here comes Chief Osceola on Renegade. He'll throw the spear at midfield, and this crowd at Doak Campbell Stadium comes to their feet and goes wild. Seminole Nation. Florida State's coming back. I picked them 9-3 this year. They went 10-3. Mike Norvell, no doubt about it, is one of the best college football coaches in America, Billy.
Yep. Well, you had a front row seat to see him at Memphis, right? And
4 years, yeah.
And so as you know, I've got an aunt and uncle that are massive FSU fans, and they go to every game for decades. And, when they hired him after Jimbo, they really weren't sure what they had. And I reassured them based on your feedback that he was an outstanding coach and would turn that around pretty quickly, and how right you were.
Well, you know what's crazy though? Marcus Woodson, one of his top assistants the last 3 years, who was at Auburn in 2018 and 19, is now on the staff at Arkansas with T-Will, Travis Williams. Watch out for the Hags, as they say in the upper Midwest, the Arkansas Razorbacks or the Hags. Maury, you're there in Alabama. You look at what Hugh Freeze has done in a little over a month of being the head coach of, as they say in the Northeast, the Auburn Tigers, or as Coach Dye would say, Auburn. This is Coach Dye for Kia of Auburn. But look at the job that he's done. You got Cadillac, Zach Etheridge. You know, you've got some guys there. You bring in Marcus Davis, great wide receiver. I believe Marcus was from Daytona Beach, Seabreeze High School. That's the Sand Crabs. But who will ever forget that wheel route he ran in the Auburn Texas A&M game in 2013? He's now receivers coach there. What do you think about the energy at Auburn, the positive karma? Do you feel it coming back a little bit at a time, day by day, the freeze warning for real?
Absolutely. I mean, he's he's out there. He's in front of people. He's making news. He's meeting people. He's making a difference. And I would point also to Tennessee. It's been a couple of years now since, and Mark here can tell us all about that perfectly. What a great timing. I mean, look at what Josh Heupel did at Tennessee in 12 months. And I hate to say if, but it's true. If the quarterback hadn't have been hurt this year, we'd have had a totally different landscape at the end of the season, I believe. So, yeah, it just takes energy. It takes vision. It takes drive. It takes hard work. I believe in hard work. And that's what Hugh has brought to the table. And I'm real excited about the future.
Yeah, and I'll say this about Tennessee. You know, remember the Munsters? Y'all remember the TV show The Munsters, Eddie Munster? When he grew up, he became Butch Jones, former Tennessee coach. And now Tennessee has, remember Bobby Hill from King of the Hill, Bobby? That's Josh Heupel. I mean, that's where Hollywood stars go to coach. But Mark Hamm, Rocky Top Tennessee Tailgate Report, joins us right now. And Mark, what's going on up at Tennessee is powerful, man. You know, we talked preseason. I'm wrong plenty. I thought Auburn would win and do better until they didn't, and I realized that Brian Harsin really wasn't recruiting. You know, if you're on the sales floor selling bonds or widgets or bricks, it always helps to call people and ask for the order. I'm just gonna say that. But what I'm seeing at Tennessee right now is powerful. When Audrey and I were up there with you for the Alabama-Tennessee game, I'll never forget, Tennessee was up 28-10, and the Tennessee cheerleaders were running off the field after doing all those push-ups, and Smokey was coming off the field with his tongue hanging out, and Audrey goes, "Oh, Smokey's going to be tired after this one." Little Mildred here, you know, my producer. But, Mark, it's year two.
Maybe that's why Uga didn't go to California. They knew that they were going to run up 65 points, and he couldn't make it.
Yeah, really. I mean, but I'm telling you, what I'm seeing at Tennessee, Mark, it doesn't surprise me because I know the resources, and you know the resources Tennessee has. But there's a commitment there to win, and it's very real, isn't it?
Yeah, I can tell you that when we had Butch Jones and, you know, our Jeremy Pruitt, I used to go down on the field and do push-ups because I could do 10 push-ups every game. But that was easy to do. But now that we got Heupel, I stay away from the field. I may have a heart attack. But yeah, so I think we're pretty excited about what's going on here. You know, we've got 3 great kids that came through the portal this week. A couple of 4-stars, one from Miami, one from Arizona State, and we got a 6'5" receiver from Oregon. So, you know, I've been saying for a long time, who doesn't want to play in this offense? But look, you know, you got a guy, you got a coach that gets it. I mean, he's brought a new system in. I'm sure over time, a lot of people will start to, you know, play the way he plays. The greatest thing about the system I see is that when a play is over, you don't see all this, doing that, hey, all this stuff. The minute the play is over, the kid with the ball runs to the referee, hands him the ball at midfield. They get set, they run another play. And, it's just that discipline. And I think not just that, but he has the kids realizing and believing in themselves. And everybody that you read about that's up here talks about the culture is so different now, with Heupel, because he is a player's coach. And not only has the commitment always been here, we've just had the wrong people. And this is a guy that is a genius. He's been there. He's been in a national championship game. He's been in a Heisman race. So he doesn't get flustered at all. You never see him getting flustered. He just moves on to the next play.
Mark, hold that thought. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back with more. Mark Hamm, Billy Roberts, Maury Gaston, Rob Browne, Saturday College Roundtable after this.
Hey y'all, it's Ainsley from Hewlett & Dunn, just coming to let you know about our new collection of boots. It's going to be our dress boots. They're the Horsepower collection, and they're genuine exotic leathers and really comfortable. Comes in all different sizes and patterns, so come check them out.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
Billy Roberts, along the lines of what Rocky Top Tennessee Tailgate Report Mark Hamm was saying about Tennessee, again, after Phil Fulmer was let go in December of 2008, I was over in Cache, Arkansas at the hunting club. A lot of Tennessee fans in our club. And I said, well, when they hired Kiffin, I remember saying that'll be the first of many hires to replace, the big boy, Phil Fulmer. And turned out to be that way. And you look at the different programs in the SEC. It's not like it used to be. There's nowhere to hide. Tell me a program in the SEC. I want you to give me a program or two that you think really is not fully committed to winning in football. And I don't say Vanderbilt, because they act like they really seem like they care now. It's a tough league, man.
I've got a couple of Missouri friends in Atlanta, and they only really get excited when Missouri was in the SEC championship a couple times, but they're really haven't quite got pedaling their bicycle as fast as they need to from a fan standpoint or an alumni standpoint. So I wonder about Missouri, but I think everybody else, your thesis is spot on. Yeah. And Maury, bounce it with you. Who do you see that has the least? I'm talking football. I'm not talking other sports, because, Georgia basketball, they've held that title for a long time at the Stegman Mausoleum over there in Athens.
Has the least what?
What school do you think in the SEC has the least, commitment, the lowest level of commitment to winning in football?
Yeah, I might agree with Billy. It seems like Missouri's just missing something. I think they feel that they're geographically an outlier. I know they border Arkansas and probably Louisiana if I knew my geography better, but it's culturally different, it seems like. But you know what? They've been to the title game, and there are a lot of other folks in the heart of the conference who have not.
Yeah. So. Oh, they went their first. They went 2 of their first 3 years.
Yeah, I think Cam's team in 2010 played against them.
No. They didn't come in the league until 2012, but they went in 2013 when Auburn won 59-42. Yeah. Ran for 563 yards. And
Yeah.
then they went the next year in 2014, and Alabama beat them, scored like 42 or 52, but they got there. And there's some schools. Ole Miss has never been to the SEC championship game in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Mississippi State's been one time. Arkansas has been 3. Texas A&M, all the money in the world.
Yeah.
And they've never been to Atlanta. So I think it's commitment. And Mark Hamm, I want your thoughts.
And you've got to have alignment from the top down, from the
Yeah.
chancellor down. And Mark, with all due respect, Tennessee had a lot of stuff to fix 15 years ago.
Absolutely.
And it started with the chancellor, and it got all the way down to the locker room. And you finally got that straightened out, and you're on a good path right now.
Totally agree. I would say that Florida
we went through the same thing when we hired Stephen Leaf.
Yeah.
I mean, he screwed up so many things.
Oh,
yeah. I'd say maybe it's Florida by hiring Billy Napier. But anyway, I think I'm kidding. So I would say you're exactly right. Tennessee did have a lot, and we've talked a lot about that on the show, that we had the wrong chancellor, we had the wrong people in place, and we brought Fulmer back in, and he was, I think, things have changed during that time. But look, everybody here was tired of not winning, and they've got the right people in place now. We got a chancellor, we've got people in place that are committed to football and committed to sports, and I think you're seeing that now.
Yeah, Billy, you're there in Brookhaven, right next to Buckhaven. Buckhaven is what we're going to start calling it. But no, they're in Atlanta. Georgia Tech. Great tradition, great history. The Ramblin' Wreck of Georgia Tech. Bobby Dodd Field, Stadium, Grant Field. So much tradition there. But the problem I see is you got so many foreign students that when you're talking about football, they're thinking soccer. Are you sensing with Georgia Tech's hiring of Chad Key as a football coach, they kept him on? Okay. Are they serious? Because we talked with Tony Barnhart and a lot of Atlanta people, and you all know Georgia Tech people. I do, but you're right there. Do they care like they care at Clemson and Auburn and Tennessee and Alabama?
They don't. There's a couple things. So I went to a party last week, for the championship game, and there were several Georgia Tech guys there at the party. It was, obviously Georgia's, was winning the game, and the gap between those two programs couldn't have been more obvious. And I was talking to them about that, and I said the right coach there, and I know you spent time, when you came into Atlanta a couple of years ago on their campus. They've got an interesting setup there. They've got a beautiful historic stadium that's right in the middle of Midtown Atlanta, surrounded by buildings. And they struck on a formula, and Virginia Tech did too a while ago, of playing on Thursday night and getting a Thursday night showcase. So anybody who sells for a living, and you and I are among them, you got to work with what you got and enhance, the advantages that you have. And so Tech can offer a great education, a world-class education, a unique setting in Atlanta, and when they do get to play on Thursday nights, rather than that have that be a bit of a negative, they can turn that into a positive, because, the scene at night there is electric, even with the mediocre talent on the field sometimes that they have. And the right coach could sell that as part of the program. Come here and get a great education, play on national TV on ESPN on Thursday, be in Atlanta. That's a fun place for young people to live.
Yeah.
And so I think they feel like with Chad, they've got that, but they're a little bit bewildered about, they seem perpetually to have a athletic department that's in the negative. They don't seem to spend their money wisely, or they don't fundraise to the level that's required. And that seems to be the problem. Radachovic went to Clemson, right?
Yeah.
He was a very good AD, knew what he was doing. But when Clemson came calling, he couldn't get out of town quick enough. But that's a real athletic department with a real budget and real fundraising. And they invented fundraising with IPTAY, right? I mean, they know they know what they're doing.
1934.
Tech just doesn't seem to have that. They don't have, $20 million a year, $30 million a year, being raised. I mean, I was talking to them about the rumors that Auburn had raised, in the collective $18 and $19 million in collective money. And they were astounded by that. And I said, well, that's how bad Auburn wants to win. Auburn understands what the standard is. And you gotta raise that kind of money and have those kind of facilities to compete at the level that Auburn wants to and that Tennessee wants to. Tennessee's got an incredible football stadium, an incredible setting right on the river, 104,000 people. They had, other than Michigan, for decades, they had the biggest stadium in America, right? So obviously you don't build a stadium like that if you don't have a fan base that is expecting results and wants to win and wants a successful team on the field. Tech just doesn't seem to have that. Their success and their glory days are way behind them. Bobby Ross won the national title in 1990. I mean, that's been a while now. We hate to admit it, but that's been a while. And that's what's going on. That's the problem.
And then Paul Johnson would have a good team every 3 years, running the wishbone and Jeff Collins he tried to do all that branding, 770, 678, 404, all these area codes. It just, you can't gimmick your way.
That's a gimmick, though.
You can't gimmick your way to a championship.
Right.
And Mark, you talked about that. Michigan. You go into that Michigan stadium in Ann Arbor. You come in at street level and you go down, but it's a big, it's like a big French style plate. When you go out to dinner, huge plate with a little bit of food in the middle. And Neyland Stadium is built more like the Roman Coliseum. And you and I and Maury and Billy, we've all been to the Roman Coliseum. Straight up. Okay. They're constantly putting in new rebar and stuff, but one mechanical engineer here, Maury, didn't the Romans invent reinforced concrete, basically rebar? That's what my dad, an architect, says. So, Mark, that stadium, Neyland Stadium, is so loud. And when this crowd of some 105,000 comes rising to their feet and the Pride of the Southland Band comes out and forms that giant T, and in just a few moments, the Tennessee football team will come running onto the field, and then it's football time in Tennessee. Those are famous words from one of the greatest of all times, John Ward. And the tradition, was it Doug Dickey or Haywood Harris at Tennessee once said, tradition never graduates. And even though you talk about
great quote,
struggling for all those years with Tennessee between championships, Tennessee football is still a powerful brand. And I absolutely believe that college football needs certain programs to be rolling. In the last 60 years, Mark, can you name me the 6 SEC schools? There's only 6 of them in the last 60 years that have won SEC championships.
Well, let's see: Tennessee, Alabama, Auburn, Georgia, Florida, and who would be the other one that's in there?
LSU.
There you go. LSU.
I got a text from Nigel, our web designer, social media director. Got to ask a question. He wants me to ask these questions every day. All right, we'll start with you, Billy. This is a good one. I'm going to take it personally because you know my affinity for this product. Are you a Budweiser guy or a Hamm's beer guy?
I don't think I've ever had a Hamm's beer, to be honest with you. I know, but I don't
Billy,
think
I'm going to get you a 30 rack at the Walmart over in Wynn, Arkansas for $15.98. I've got some in my cooler right now. It's the beer you've been looking for since 1865, born in the land of sky blue waters. Check out the commercials on YouTube.
Yeah.
The old guy that looked like Grizzly Adams riding around in an open air Willis Jeep with a grizzly bear licking him on the face. Honey, I'll be home a little bit late. The bear and I are going out for a beer. But, okay. You're a Bud guy, huh?
Yeah, well, when you and I were in school, Natural Light came out and it was pretty cheap, and I think that was what everybody.
Not really beer.
Yeah, Natty Light and.
Yeah. Maury,
I thought Rob was a Bartles and James kind of guy at all.
No. Mark, what are you? A Hamm's or a Budweiser guy?
I gotta go Hamm's, man. When I keep it in stock when people come to my house.
Because what's your last name?
Yeah, I tell them the first time they come to my house, you got to have a Hamm's beer, and they'll never drink one again. It's only
It's kind of like at the Sigma Nu House when I was in college at Auburn at 2 or 3 in the morning after the band party was winding up. Everybody would order Domino's pizzas. Well, you quickly learned in the fraternity house, everybody would just eat your pizza, and you'd get none. So you know what I did? I would order an anchovy pizza, and nobody would touch it. Maury, are you a Hamm's beer or a Bud
Let
guy?
me answer that by saying this. This is the famous Budweiser beer. We know of no brand produced by any other brewer which costs so much to brew and age. Our exclusive Beechwood aging ensures a taste, a smoothness, and a drinkability you will find in no other beer at any price.
There you go.
Now, I was a Pike at Auburn, and that was part of our pledge initiation is you had to deliver that testimonial word for word off the Budweiser can. That was part of your that was hazing back then.
Well, I learned it voluntarily.
Listen, Maury, you having been up at hallowed ground, sacred ground to you and me and all of us, Lexington, Virginia, the campus of Virginia Military Institute. Do you know they have to learn when you're a cadet, your freshman year at VMI, the inscription over the science and mathematics building? Into these halls go great. I mean, that's something, if you know it, you have to say it. And they call it straining when you have to hold your shoulders up. You better know that. But I think that's really cool. So we got to draw 2 Hamms guys, because I'm a Hamms guy, and I'm married to a Hamm, Audrey-Ann Hamm. But Mildred Scroggins, that's her studio name. But 2 Hamms, 2 Bud guys. All right, now here's the next question. We got a lot of questions coming in here, and this is as far as college football goes. And everybody, we all know about TV, but if you were king of college football, Maury, Billy, Mark, I'm going to start with Mark Hamm. What would you do? Would you go back to 1:30 or 2:30 kickoffs and then night games in Baton Rouge and do it like that if you could make it work? Because we know about TV, the 11 a.m., the timeout game. Go stand in the corner. You're in timeout. You're playing at 11 o'clock in the morning. What would you do, Mark?
I can tell you just from a tailgate perspective, we don't really like noon games because, it's always a breakfast. Nobody shows up. Everybody gets there late. It's early.
Yep.
I think I'll just have to go back and say, if you remember us playing Ole Miss a year ago here in Neyland at a 7 o'clock game, there was a lot of stuff that hit that field, that people threw out the stands. And that was a 7 o'clock or an 8 o'clock game. And the reason was because they drank all day. So if you really want a big party, LSU is a night game. Tennessee's a night game. We play Alabama at night. I mean, no, that was an afternoon game. But it was like a 3 o'clock kick. But I don't know. I'm more of like a 3:30 kick, 7 o'clock kick kind of guy. I don't like the early games.
Billy Roberts.
Well, I've noticed with the LSU Auburn game, whenever we play in Baton Rouge, it's always a night game and it's electric down there and it plays all their advantages in Baton Rouge. But typically when they play the game in Auburn, it's a 3:30 game and it's not a dud, but it's close to it. And even this year it was that way a little bit. But
it was a night game this year.
This year was for the first time. Yeah. At Auburn. But, I've always felt like that night game is special. And, again, if it's alcohol fueled, people will tailgating all day, so be it. But it's amazing, and it makes for good television. I mean, my goodness, when you watch the SEC games at night, I'm sure people in the rest of the country can't imagine, what it's like to be there. It's certainly a recruiting tool for kids from around the country to want to come to an SEC school.
Yeah. Yeah. Maury?
Well, I hate the 11 o'clock timeout game, but you're playing in it because you deserve it, frankly. 8 o'clock games are tough, but I still see full stadiums at 8 o'clock at night. The genesis of this question had to do more with natural turf than time of day or anything, but it was back in the 70s, and Coach Jordan was asked about natural turf or grass, and why didn't Auburn put in AstroTurf? And we never did.
Never.
And Coach Jordan was adamant. He said, "College, you could imitate him." Rob, but he said college football is meant to be played at 1:30 p.m. on Saturday afternoon on natural grass.
Yeah,
Coach, he said that over and over and over again. And my good buddy Dave Tompkins, who's been on your program, is a West Point graduate. He told me last night. He said you need to be sure to put that on the program. So,
I would agree.
This question came up earlier this week. So it's very. Hey,
hold that thought, Clarence. We're going to be right back. We got to take a quick break. Mildred's tugging on me right now. Going to be back with more Maury Gaston, Billy Roberts, Mark Hamm, Rob Browne, and the Hamm's Beer Bear right after this.
Hey y'all, it's Ainsley from Hewlett & Dunn, just coming to let you know about our new collection of boots. It's going to be our dress boots. They're the horsepower collection, and they're genuine exotic leathers and really comfortable. Comes in all different sizes and patterns, so come check them out.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Rob Browne back here with you. Billy Roberts had the drop off. He's got to head over to Columbus, to the Bi-Cities, Columbus, Phoenix City. By the way, if you hadn't been there, they got Class 4 and even a Class 5 rapid, guys, downtown Columbus. About 11 years ago, they blew up the top part of the Chattahoochee River Dam above Columbus, and they have incredible whitewater rafting when you go there. It is about some of the coolest thing you've ever seen. But Billy Roberts, love him being on the round table. Quick question, guys, before we go to hour number 2. Buddy Martin will be joining us. Man, this is interesting. Who was the CBS coach that was also the station manager, cameraman on live studio wrestling? Mark, you remember this on Channel 5 on Saturday mornings with Lance Russell and Dave Browne. Lance Banana Nose Russell, as Jerry the King Lawler used to call him. And someone put on here an interesting question. Who was Jerry the King Lawler's? By the way, I still see Jerry in Memphis a lot. Who was his first manager that was killed in a car wreck? And I was like, this came in from, wow, David Aquadro. Sam Bass. Interesting. Billy, by the way, Jerry the King Lawler is 73 years old, I think now. The guy looks like he's about 32. You shake hands with him, it's like putting your hands in a catcher's mitt. I mean, the guy has forearms as big as my thighs, and he's never been to the gym. The guy's amazing, and he is one of the most positive, electric karma people you'll ever meet in your life. Now, wrestling is real, Mark, and it's real, Jimmy. You know it, and Amari, you know it. Great athletes like Plowboy Frazier don't just come out of the woodwork. Plowboy Frazier, by the way, Mark, made the short pant overalls pretty darn popular. So I just wonder what it would have been like for Kamala the Ugandan Giant or Coco Beware or Jerry Lawler or Handsome Jimmy Valiant or Bill Dundee to play on the line of scrimmage in an SEC football game. There would have been a lot of hair pulling, and people would have had to leave at halftime. You know, loser leaves town. It would have been a lot of fun. But
probably been like a lot of Ole Miss too, and they were flopping against us on the ground. You know.
Yes. There was, yeah. And speaking, that is exactly what happened. By the way, we asked Steve Shaw, coordinator of NCAA officials, native of Birmingham. We asked him on the show. It's hard to get him on during the season because he's kind of busy, but he's very forthcoming when you ask him questions. And we asked him about the flopping and the fake injuries and all. I think the message, guys, got out to college coaches this year. Mm-hmm. Did y'all see it? I didn't see it this year. And I'll tell you what else I saw.
Once or twice, I saw somebody go down because, somebody's about to score and they kind of fell to the ground. But,
Well,
I think it was mostly legit injuries
Yeah.
this year. Wasn't the soccer injuries this year.
Yeah. Well, a lot of time, remember the old dying cockroach, you lay on your back. I remember that's gone. And also way fewer targeting calls this year. I saw a lot less of that. And I think that's a result of NCAA officials getting to the conference offices. There's a lot of continuing education that goes on, getting the message across and saying, hey, look, we're not going to make football. We're not going to put dresses on them. We're not going to emasculate the game. Those people out there that want that, go find you another sport. Football is a violent, tough, physical game. But I can tell you from knowing people that I know in college football, you call them the behind the scenes people. I'm going to tell you right now, Dana Marquez, Director of Equipment Operations at Auburn. You look at the people at Auburn with the 3D imaging for injuries. They can get you fixed up during the game. Yeah. Dr. Zabella. They put so much into the player's safety, and it's not just football. It's all sports. I'd be willing to bet. I'd like to know the number of concussions in women's soccer versus football. All the head, using your head so much. Man, that's a different story. But I think people need to. Well, we all watched when Damar Hamlin went down in the Buffalo-Cincinnati game. I mean, that was scary. Okay, but thank God they had the medical staff right there that reacted. And you see players get hurt in every game. And I always like to say, if it's Auburn, when you see Dr. James Andrews leave the sidelines and go out on the field, somebody's hurt pretty bad. And torn ACL or whatever it is, it's a big deal. But you have, as a student athlete, you have access to the greatest medical care. Auburn baseball coach Butch Thompson says he talks to parents when they come up to visit on recruiting trips or whatever. He says, Dr. Andrews and his staff, Andrews Orthopedic Group, are our team doctors. Transfer that to Alabama, to Tennessee, to Ole Miss, to Memphis, to Florida, LSU, you name the school. You've got the best care, and it is amazing. If you've ever been on the sidelines, there is a plan. Now, Maury, mechanical engineer, you don't go for a walk around the block without a detailed plan. That's what I love about you. One of many great things about you. But the medical staff that's on the sidelines, that's ready to jump to action, it's incredible. That's why I don't care how many people are coming out here talking about NIL, football's ruined, the portal, football's ruined. No, it's not. This is just a pothole in the road of life. Fix it, patch it up, we'll move on. And when I talk about the free market, Mark, Maury, anybody listening, you know this. You will only pay someone money for so long, if there's no return on investment. And that's what the free market is. And we will see this happen in college football. Southern Cal, that was a team made up of a bunch of ringers. You had, what was Addison, the receiver from Pitt, Jordan Addison, that transferred to Southern Cal? He quit on his team. He didn't play in the bowl game. Did he? They could have used him in the Cotton Bowl. They lost. I guess it doesn't matter to some of these guys. I can tell you something. If you work hard, whatever school you go to, D1, 2, or 3, you play by the rules. You show up early for practice. You letter. You graduate. You network with those alumni and those boosters. Maury, Mark Hamm. Oh, my God. We got Coach Buddy Martin on. Coach Martin, Buddy Martin. If you network and you do it right, you can be set for life and will be given opportunities that nobody else could ever dream of. But the one thing people love is when you come up and you say, hey, Coach, what can I do to help? Hey, Maury. Hey, Mark. Hey, Buddy, what can I do to help? College football, as Buddy Martin says, who owns it? The fans do. orangeandbluebloods.com. That's his Gator Bait Media. take that loyalty oath. I'm going to tell you something, man. College football, the product on the field is as great as it's ever been. The future is as bright as it's ever been. You know what? It's up to you to allow other people to walk through your mind with their dirty feet. That ain't my quote. That's Mr. Gandhi said that. The only man I know who is more quotable than Mr. Gandhi is in the bottom right below me on the Hollywood Squares version of Sidelines. Buddy Martin, GatorbaitMedia.com, and the Buddy Martin Show, Monday through Thursday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern. Check it out on Twitter, Facebook, all the social media. You've got to watch this show. Listen and learn.
Good morning, guys. And was that Billy Gandhi who played quarterback for? Oh man, I heard that guy. Somewhere.
Was it Mahatma Gandhi? I think that was his first name.
Call him Mo. I think
Mo Gandhi. Yeah, Bill Gandhi. He's from down around Sardis.
There you go. That works. Good morning, gentlemen. How you doing? I heard you talking about college football and the state of, man, I tell you, we've been through it down here the last 10 days or so. For folks not connected or don't care about Florida Gator football, which we do passionately down here, we've experienced the disasters of the NIL, and what's happening right now as we speak is the adjudication of a matter with a 4-star quarterback who was a centerpiece of Billy Napier's recruiting program for 23. I can't get the years together. Anyway, Jaden Rashada, who is a terrific player. I don't know if you heard the story or not to hijack the conversation.
No, that's what we want to talk about.
It is now, we've been exposed to the underbelly of some of the things that go on, and it's not necessarily just, unscrupulous things going on, although I have no doubt that is also going on in various places as we speak. It's the uncertainty, and it's the uncertainty that not just on the football field, but in the media. I mean, I'm going to be honest. We don't know what the hell to report. We just don't know because we can't get anybody to tell us, and we don't have these sources. We're used to watching things on the field and writing about them, right? And then talking to the coaches. Now you have this whole abstract of NIL, a transfer portal, that now Florida has what looks like a good class lined up for this year, nothing like Georgia's, but, a bunch of 4 stars, really exciting. And then the deal that was supposed to close on Monday, Rashada, quarterback California, was to report early with the rest of the 15 kids in their class, and he didn't show. Came out of the Under Armour All-American game in Orlando and expected to arrive on campus and expected to enroll and did not. And then he hit the fan, as they say, the oscillator, hit the feces hit the oscillator, as they say. And so now we're left sorting out what went wrong, and we've heard all kinds of things, almost afraid to report on them because who knows if they're right or not. Nobody's telling you these things. Nobody's talking about it. You're having to hear about it on social media, and he said, she said. I wrote a column about it yesterday in Gator just, I took a 24-hour timeout for myself to say, I can't do this anymore. Jason Rashada, I can't write this story because I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't know what to tell you except to say, obviously something's gone wrong, and we're hearing from verifiable information, very little, but some among them is there was a $13 million NIL deal on the table, which went sideways. Now, that's never been verified, but when you break it down at first, you say, that's ridiculous. The bottom line is, if you do the math on it and you say, okay, what's the going rate for a quarterback? And now, $3 million is nothing, apparently. They're all getting $3 million to play, some 5, whatever. So now I don't know what happened. Maybe it sounds like, again, I hate to talk about speculation, the deal went south, whoever was putting the money up, and there's accusations that somebody got, I don't know. I just don't know what happened. So now the Gator fans are despondent. This is a big thing. This is why it's big. Although, Rob, my theory, let me see him on the hoof. Let me talk about him after I see him. Today's world is all about getting this 5 stars, the 3 stars. Don't count as much. And so when you just seen what Georgia is doing, a dynasty, I call it dynastic because they're not a dynasty yet, but they're on the way. And you think, this is Florida's one of Florida's oldest rival, and the distance is, it's not going to get any shorter between what they're doing and Georgia's doing. And the main thing being that your quarterback is your centerpiece, your prize pick, and now that goes south on you in the heart of recruiting season. No wonder Gator fans are despondent.
Well, I just, it blows my mind. Get here and prove something. If that's true, a $13 million NIL deal. Go back to your partner, Franz Beard, the Iron Duke. He wrote back before this past football season. He said, I'm just going to say it. I've got to say it. We're going to have some disasters just completely blow up with NIL to get control back of this crazy situation in college football. And here's an example of it right now.
Yep, that's how market corrections occur.
Yeah. And Mark Hamm, same thing with you and what you do for a living. The free market. If 13 million is the figure, as Buddy indicated, and again, it is so hard to get information, but anything even close to that, we better get control of this right now. This is like a fire, and you're trying to fight it with a garden hose versus calling the fire department.
I'll say this: if it took $13 million to get somebody to sign with my team, I wouldn't want to sign him.
Yeah, I wouldn't either.
But gentlemen, that sounds good. That ain't the real world. That's not how it's worth. That's not, how much money was Cam Newton worth? The reports he got $200,000 at Auburn, all that sort of stuff. And we know there's been cheating going on forever in college football. That's a deal today, right?
Yeah.
And so there's no doubt. I mean, people, we know people, we know this been going on for a long time. Some cheat more than others. Like our good friend Steve Spurrier said he was rooting against Alabama. He found out their scholarships were worth a lot more than his. He's in Florida. But bottom line is that how do you deal with it? If you're going to play, you better bring some cash. And this is what we're the hand. It's not going to go away. This is, and yes, it's broken, and a lot of other things are broken. College football has got a real problem, but you can't get control of it. That's like the mayor of New York City getting control of New York City. It ain't gonna happen. You better learn how to manage it. And this is what you have to do. Billy Napier, in my opinion, based on what I know of him, is as good as he gets as a human being and a person, and with ethics. And yet a lot of people are mad at him. They're mad at Scott Strickland, saying, how in the world could you get stuck with something like this? Strickland is kind of bound by the people who are raising the money. And again, it's all speculation, but we don't have to be able to identify to know somewhere the deal broke down. Okay, whatever the deal, I don't know how much the deal was. That's just a figure that Edgar Thompson put out there. He's a really good reporter, and I trust him, but there are figures, all kind of figures. So how do you deal with this? We know there's a sum. Now, here's the other side of this. I believe, Maury, you said it right, the market adjustment. There's a quarterback out there who might be as good or better for Florida, and his name is Walker Howard, a 5-star who just left FSU, went to the Portland, and as we speak,
LSU, yeah.
LSU, yeah. Did I say LSU? I thought it was LSU. Maybe I said FSU. It's on my mind. But he is a coveted quarterback, and I've been doing some research. I hadn't even written this on my own website, Gatorbat, yet. But the fact is, Billy Napier has a history with Walker Howard. He was at Louisiana. He was the first person to offer Walker Howard. I dug into my sources down in Louisiana, and I hadn't even told my own people this yet. But there is some thinking that if Rashada is not going to show up, by the way, the deadline was 11:59 p.m., and as far as I know, he's not here. So I guess, I don't know, because I don't know all these rules. I guess he's done deal. So if they ended up, as you say, market correction, Maury, and they wound up getting Walker Howard, from what I hear and see and what people tell me,
is a stud. Mike, hold that thought, buddy. This is a big story. A lot of LSU people listen. We'll be right back talking Walker Howard, maybe to Florida, right after this.
Hey everyone, my name is David Wisdom.
And I'm Shelby McNeil, and we're attorneys with Haggard, Cleveland, Pierce, Thompson & Short, your local Auburn law firm. Established in 1959 right in the heart of Auburn, Haggard, Cleveland, Pierce, Thompson & Short has grown in response to our clients' legal needs. We're a full-service law firm focusing on the legal issues our clients face.
We take pride in providing our clients with exceptional legal services ongoing communication, and skilled representation. If you have any questions about our services, please give us a call or visit our website today.
All right. Speaking of a little bit of wrestling trivia here, Shoney just sends this in from Valdosta. Ric Flair, you can't be first, but you can be next. I love that. But all right, Walker Howard. We all remember his dad, Jamie Howard, from Lafayette, Louisiana, at LSU, the 1994 Auburn, the interception game. But his son is a big time quarterback. Lafayette, that's where Billy Napier was.
Yeah.
So this is, I mean, buddy, your gut feeling. You're really good at going with your gut. You got how strong? What do you think could happen by Monday or Tuesday with this?
Well, I don't pretend to know anything. Okay, I wrote my column saying I don't know. I mean, I'm just like you out there. And a lot of my listeners and readers are saying, "Buddy, what's going on?" I said in my column, I don't know. I'm like you. And so one of my listeners said to me last week, "You think if a shot of deal goes south that they'd have a chance with Walker Howard?" I said, maybe, but he's already got two. You got a guy from Wisconsin and Mertz, and he's got Miller, and Rashad is still in the program. I don't think so right now, but little did I know that Rashad is going to go south. So my answer to you, I call people who do know. I have some really good friends who are on it down in Baton Rouge. I mean, they are on it. They're as good as it gets. And I called one of them and said, "What is it?" I texted, "What's going on there? Is there any chance that Napier would be in on Walker?" He wrote, "Oh yeah, he was the first guy to offer him." And I said, "What do you hear?" He says, "Well, I think Florida and TCU are the leaders in the clubhouse." And he said, "Now TCU has lost the offensive coordinator. He's gone, obviously, and so he went to Clemson, and that relationship was no good there. So Florida might be in for Walker Howard." Now, I only seen clips on the kid. I take for granted. The 5-star rating's there for a reason. My friend knows Jamie Howard really well.
Yeah.
And he says that Auburn could be in there. And I know he's at Ole Miss today. So if this thing has gone south, and it sounds like it may have, because last night was a deadline, 11:59. Oh, technically he could still come to Florida. And his dad, Rashada's dad, said it was not true that he had asked for a release. But I don't know about all that. I'm just telling you again, it's just gut feelings and good sources are saying it could be a lost win. It could be a win for Florida to get a guy like Walker Howard if they do. But if they don't, that's going to be kind of a long off season.
Well, Mark Hamm already up in Knoxville. Nico Lamaliva, the $8 million man. That's what we're told. Big print giveth, small print taketh away. What's been the general reaction? What are you hearing about his early workouts up on the hill in Knoxville? He came from California. That's a lot of money to pay a guy who's yet to take a hit in the toughest league in America.
Yeah, so my son verified the deal because he's working with some NIL folks. So I think that's a real deal. I think it's more backloaded for him to stay longer. But let's be honest, if he has a great career, he'll be in the NFL. What we heard was he was practicing for the ball game. He was running scout team, trying to be the Clemson quarterback, and everything that I'm hearing is that he's great. And as a matter of fact, if it means anything, Trayvon Jackson, who was a 4 or 5 star that came to us, that you don't hear a lot about, 4 or 5 star quarterback out of Texas, he just went into the portal yesterday. So I think that'll tell you that Joe Milton is probably our starter this year. Yeah. And I think Nico will probably take the reins a year from now.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's so much happening so fast. I want to switch gears and go to basketball, getting several questions on here. Start with you, buddy. And this is looking at Kentucky basketball. They travel to Tennessee today, Thompson Bowling Arena. Tennessee ranked number 5. Kentucky struggling. But experience-wise, this is the most veteran team John Calipari's had in a long time. But I compare it with A&M, not because they've won. A&M has not won like Kentucky basketball. I'm talking about A&M football. No comparison at all. But my question to you, buddy, is you pay that massive lifetime buyout to Jimbo Fisher. Same thing with John Calipari. will Kentucky pull the trigger if this team gets knocked out? If they may not even make the tournament, but if they get knocked out in the first round again, how much pain can the Big Blue Nation take?
Well, they got a lot of pain with South Carolina last weekend. My goodness, that's a huge loss for them. And Calipari's, I'm sure he's on the hot seat every year now because he hasn't won it for a while. It started, the drum beat started, and I think Cal's a hell of a coach. Sometimes he gets over his skis, no doubt about it. But I wouldn't count him out until you get to March because he always seems to show up there. I wouldn't compare Jimbo Fisher and Cal at all because it's like apples and oranges or apples and rutabagas. It's just not the same. A&M football is a whole nother story. And then, of course, they end up hiring who? Who again?
Bobby Petrino.
Who?
Yeah.
Bobby Petrino, who, by the way, is a hell of an offensive mind. Don't get me wrong. But you tell me you saw that one coming. So A&M football, here's the question. Who's in more trouble, A&M football or Calipari in Kentucky? I would say A&M football is more in trouble.
I would agree with that. Yep.
Yeah. Maury, you look at Texas A&M. You and I talked about this. Last year, all we heard about was the $25 million they spent on that number one ranked recruiting class with 7 5-stars in it. And then a little bit of deeper digging, you find out, well, that was over like a 5-year period. And Mark, you know this, and Buddy, and I do. I bet you, I'm just going to say my gut tells me that a lot of these kids in that class showed up with their hands out thinking they were going to get paid on the front end. And it was a rude awakening. And as the season went along, morale just absolutely fell apart, and Jimbo lost the locker room. And now he's bringing in Bobby Petrino. And sure, he's going to let him call the plays and get all the glory. That looks like, drama, TV drama, and SEC shorts material for as long as those two are together.
Yeah. I think I'm going to buy some popcorn for this one.
Yeah. I do think it's a mess. Buddy, basketball in the Southeastern Conference, it's getting to be a bigger and bigger deal. What's the general, like Mike White, look what he's doing at Georgia. And at Florida, it wasn't working. They made a change, but he's got Georgia with 11 or 12 wins already. I don't think they won that many games all last year, including, their own scrimmages. They were horrible, but they're playing better. Gator basketball. People don't talk that much about the talent. There's so much talent in the state of Florida. It's not even funny. Hell, they won back-to-back national championships. What are the expectations at Florida?
They've changed.
No.
Mike White, the former Gator coach, came to town last week and got a loss. Todd Golden's team beat him, and Florida started playing decent basketball. They got Colin Castleton, who's really a superb player.
Yes.
Yeah, obviously, he's a big man who posts you up, gets it to rebounds, plays hard. And they haven't anybody else to go hit their shots. Suddenly against Georgia, Florida did it and got it going. Now, again, they won the other night. They should have beaten Auburn, really, to be honest with you. The basketball team that's there is starting to come to the fore. They got some young guys that you have never heard of, particularly the guy Alex Fudge. They beat LSU the other night, and Fudge is a former Tiger. He got booed in the arena. And then they got other players on that team. A guy named Kugel, who watched Ronnie Kugel, a freshman. Man, he's sweet. You don't see much of him now. He had a key 3 the other night. He is so smooth on the court. They run the court and look like a basketball team for the first time in a while. So they're not going to be contenders, but now they're beating decent teams on the road. You go to Baton Rouge, you beat a team like LSU. What were they? They won 12 games.
Yeah.
They beat LSU. Yeah. And you play defense and you get block shots. They had like 8 block shots. They hustle, they play hard, but if they can hit their shots, they can be a legitimate tournament team until they started hitting their shots. But guys, it's like those putts. Some days they fall and some days they don't.
Yeah. Mark Hamm today, 12 p.m. Eastern, Thompson Bowling Arena. Kentucky comes to number 5 Tennessee. Is this the best team Rick Barnes has had since he's been there? He keeps recruiting on a really high level. He's an elite recruiter.
Yeah, I think it's a fantastic team. I don't know. I don't know if they're as good as they were last year, the last few years, when they had some other players. They got some young talent, obviously. But, what's going on in Kentucky, I don't know. I mean, I have a friend that's a really good friend, that's a big Kentucky fan. He tells me there's a lot of strife between Calipari and Mitch Barnhart around the NIL, and that's really what's driving this. And I think Calipari took kind of a shot at Mitch Barnhart, I guess, to try to take some of the pressure off of him. So it's becoming kind of a feces show up there, I guess, so to speak. But who knows what's going to happen with that. But look, Kentucky's going to come to town, and they're always going to have talent. I think it could probably be a very close game. I think Tennessee wins. But yeah, Rick Barnes is a neighbor. He's a great guy. He recruits well, but the only knock on him is we get to the big show, and he exits out pretty quickly. So,
well, I'm getting some stuff. There's a great interview out there apparently on YouTube, Calipari about with Mitch Barnhart. But Kentucky trying to move their football program up. It seems like they've just hit a ceiling, and now that the expectations are there, they're not meeting them. Maury, Billy, Buddy, Mark, whoever wants to answer this question. By the way, got to ask Buddy this question. I've already asked the other two guys. Buddy, our social media director, Nigel, says, ask this question to your guest today. Yesterday, it was hot dog or Frankfurter, and everybody said hot dog. We're in the South. But today he said, are you a Bud man or a Hamm's beer man? If you don't like beer, but if you had to be, now my choice, obviously, you know what it is, but Buddy, what are you?
Bud Light. What else would I be but Bud Light, right? What the heck? In fact, Coors Light when I lived in Colorado. My son played high school football at Nice. He was a little skinny tight end.
Yeah.
And they wore a T-shirt that said Coors Light on it, and that became his nickname. They wouldn't let him wear it today. And whenever he caught a ball in one of the games, the coach, somebody said, well, who's that that caught that ball, number 3? He said, well, Bud Light. He said, Coors Light. Coors Light. Couldn't think of his name, called him Coors Light. But no, I'm a Coors Light guy, but I'm here, and when I drink it, which is rare, I would drink Bud Light.
Yeah. Well, buddy, you got to remember those commercials from the 70s of the Hamm's beer, the guy, Grizzly Adams, driving with a grizzly bear in the passenger seat of an open-air Willis Jeep. And he goes out, having a beer after work at the lumber yard with his bear. I mean, you can't get any better. The best commercials ever made. All right. So, round table. Got some questions here now. Maury, I'll start with you.
Hold on one second. I just got this bullet. I got a bullet in here. TCU's entire football team just went to the transfer portal.
You got to be kidding me, aren't you?
Yes.
Okay. Well, Mildred over here thought you were serious. I mean, you got her scared. No. Well, buddy, I want to go back to that real quick. Sonny Dykes. We get a lot of roundtables. Ken Capps, Football Writers of America. We have Bo Carter, Billy Shershot, a lot of Texas writers. I thought TCU would play Georgia a good game. But that was Sonny Dykes' first year there after coming over from SMU. And the Max Duggan, runner-up for the Heisman Trophy. That was a great story, but stories don't win national championships. How does TCU regroup and recover? And what did it do for college football for the SEC to win their 20th national championship since 1970?
Well, first things first, I'll let somebody else take it. I think we're going to find out about TCU. Sonny Dykes I like a lot, but he just lost his offensive coordinator.
Yes.
And that's going to hurt him. And this is what happens when you're successful. We know this, guys. Programs win. Look at Saban. Now he's changing the guard. And they change out coaches a lot, and they get recruited. Everybody wants to hire the whole Georgia staff now all of a sudden. Todd Monken's already getting offers, and different, according to Tony Barnhart. So it happens, and it's why it's so remarkable when a team gets to the top and stays at the top, like Saban and Alabama have. And now we'll see whether, no matter what he does, we're going to see whether or not Georgia can sustain. I mean, I think they got Kirby's as good a coach as there is in the country now, better than the GOAT right now, as I say. We'll see what happens in the future. But the future belongs to Kirby Smart and the Georgia Bulldogs. And they are so good. And holding it together and playing and sustaining is something that's really not appreciated. People don't know how hard that is. Terry Bradshaw told me when they won those 4 Super Bowls in 6 years, he said the pressure was awful because you just don't want to lose every time we played somebody. They're gunning for us all the time. When you're a top dog, you're getting gunned all the time. And so we'll see. Georgia's got it laid out nicely, and they got great players and a great future. But can they sustain? I don't know. I think right now that's the model, and that's what we're going to be looking at. Sadly, for all the people who have Georgia as a rival, you better get used to looking up at it.
Yeah. Well, as they say, Herschel Walker, Buck Bellew, all the Georgia greats, Champ Bailey, nobody can sit down to eat at the table.
Stetson Bennett. Yeah. I mean, he's the greatest Bulldog of all time, Stetson Bennett.
Yeah.
You can't deny it.
Yeah. You can't, Maury. And he's 5'10", Blackshear, Georgia, hunting, fishing, loving every day. I mean, it's a great story, Maury. You got to love South Georgia, small town kids. That's how Georgia wins national championships. I mean, honestly, take the Heisman away from that creep that won it, Caleb Williams. I mean, the Heisman's supposed to be about more than just gaudy stats and being the best pro prospect, isn't it? Shouldn't character matter?
Character is officially part of the Heisman criteria.
Yeah.
Exactly right. Yep.
Yeah. And you don't get your fingernails done if you're a man.
That's right.
Holy shnikes.
And there's been talk about can Georgia three-peat? Well, sure they can. And sure, the chances of them winning are probably greater than the chances of any other team winning. But you've got to factor into that all the variables that go into winning for a third year in a row. I mean, it takes a remarkable set of things happening in addition to your talent and your coaching ability to win a national championship. Cam Newton's 16-play, 9-minute drive at the end of the game against Kentucky was absolutely remarkable, and we wouldn't have won the national championship without that drive. And when all these factors begin to accumulate on top of themselves, the chances of three-peating just plummet. So they got as good a chance as anybody. They've also got the greatest odds against it because they've won it twice already.
Yeah. All right, hold that thought. We're going to come back, get some more questions, a lot of them about Alabama. You talk about Todd Monken. How much change, how many losses can you sustain on a staff and not feel it? Right after this.
Hey y'all, it's Ainsley from Hewlett & Dunn, just coming to let you know about our new collection of boots. It's going to be our dress boots. They're the horsepower collection, and they're genuine exotic leathers and really comfortable. Comes in all different sizes and patterns, so come check them out.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
Buddy Martin, want to go back to you here. I talked to a lot of my Alabama friends, and the ones that really know that program inside out about as well as anybody in the country. They'll say, losing 6 or 7 coaches in a year, which happens a lot with Nick Saban. Everybody wants those coaches. They want somebody who knows the Saban process. They want to see if they can steal some of that thunder. But you lose that many coaches over a 4 or 5 year period, eventually it's going to catch up with you. because you don't have enough guys who remember how it was when you were on top of the world. But it's easy for Nick Saban to point out that he needs assistance, and they'll have 1,000 resumes, immediately emailed to him. But if you delegate too much authority and you're not hands-on, that's when you can get in trouble. My gut feeling is Nick Saban's going back to square one and going to be more hands-on and look at every single thing. He's going to trust his assistants, but he's going to be more hands-on. But Alabama next year, it's not going to be like they're not going to miss Bryce Young. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. And naturally, there's great players. We know the turnover. There's always today is a plug-and-play system set up at Alabama and Georgia. I think it's a different world we're in right now. Over in the East, there's a different landscape. Georgia, yeah, but Tennessee's coming. I mean, they are really impressive what they're doing there. And I think their new quarterback's going to be just fine. What a gun he's got for an arm.
Yeah.
And I think you look around and you say, well, what's going on? Well, the landscape is changing. Suddenly the East is not exactly as easy as it used to be. There are players and there are coaches moving around. Take the situation with, let's go back to TCU. They fired Brandon Streeter as the offensive coordinator. What was he, 33 years old, whatever he was, Dabo? They're always looking for other people. Well, right there, they jumped on to Garrett Riley. His brother, of course, is a coach at the USC. And they know offense in that family. Now, defense, we'll see about that. Like somebody said, Riley brought his offense to Southern Cal, also brought his defense because they're not worth a crap on defense. But but I mean, yeah, this is part of it. The attrition of coaches, building a staff, chemistry, etc., is part of it. And when you get it right, which clearly Kirby has, and a few other programs in Tennessee have, but you better hold on to those coaches. They're getting paid big time money now. I mean, you can't hire a coach, offensive coordinator for under $1 million anywhere anymore. Big time money. So money's not the answer. To answer your question, which I forgot what it was now.
Just about the constant change in the losses on the staff. You can't not feel it.
You can't not sustain it. You can't sustain it at that level. How do you do it? I don't know. I guess you have a common goal. You pay your coaches well. You treat them well. I don't know that Dabo's time might not be over. I just got a gut feeling that maybe it is, meaning that he's going to win. He may win 8, 9, 10 games, but I don't think he's going to be at that Final Four. Now, here's the good news. In 2 years, he's only got to be 1 of 12. And that completely changes the complex of everything because it puts in 3 or 4 teams from the SEC, and everybody's got a better chance. Bottom line is, I guess the great coaches know how to keep their people. And I'd say right now that look to Athens and Knoxville for guys who are doing a great job and see what the future holds. They ain't going to be in West Texas. They're not going to be at Texas A&M. I mean, not West Texas. And so because Jimbo has lost his touch, I'm afraid. So, yeah, sustaining, getting good people, good coaches. I don't know. Let's see if they can get it done. Billy Napier's got his work cut out for him, I know.
Yeah. Mark Hamm, I know you're about to have to go to curling practice, but got to ask you this. Look how quickly Clemson fell off that pedestal after Trevor Lawrence, great quarterback out of Cartersville, Georgia, leaves. DJ Uiagalelei out of Concordia, California, comes in, 5-star. Goes on the road, the 2020 season, has the most passing yards ever by an opposing quarterback at Notre Dame. But they keep trying to make it work. It just didn't happen. Now you got Cade Klubnik, kid out of Austin, Texas, 5-star. They're gonna put him out there. DJ, it just didn't happen. But you see how quickly you can go from being on top of the world, 2 national championships in 4 years, Clemson. I agree with Buddy. Dabo will win. He doesn't like the portal, doesn't like NIL. He likes to keep his culture the way it is. But Florida State is coming on.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think Clemson, they did pretty well, right? Obviously, won a couple of national championships, but to stay at that level, you've just got to continue to pound it out. And I don't know. I still think, I like what Josh Heupel said. He goes, if you're going to pick 4 teams and put it in the college football playoff, he says just pick 4 from the SEC. And I think that probably is what they should have done this year. I think Tennessee and Alabama probably should have been in there. But Anyway, I'm a little bit of an SEC homer, but I agree. You've got to continue to win. This NIL's changing everything. The portal's changing everything. These kids will leave and go somewhere else, and it changes your entire complexity of your team. So, I don't know. We'll see what happens. I think, back to the whole Kirby thing, I think he definitely is a good coach. He obviously learned everything from Saban. But I thought it was interesting. I thought it was really interesting when at the national championship at halftime when David Pollock, the homer from Georgia, in front of Nick Saban says, "Oh, Georgia's taken over the landscape of football." And I don't know if you saw the look on Nick Saban's face, but I really
body
thought,
language was strong.
Yeah, I really thought, did he really just say that to the GOAT? I think you're going to see a different fire coming out of there. And I think to your point, I think Kirby's going to probably lose some coaches. They're going to become, Alabama with people if they continue to win, and coaches will be leaving, and we'll see if he can keep it together.
Yeah, you got to have guys that remember what it took to make it great.
Yeah,
and if you don't have enough of those guys around, who do you reference? Who do you talk to about that? Maury, about building whether it's a corporate culture or an athletic culture, you can't get away from what made you great, but you've also got to improvise, adapt, and overcome, push through and execute. If you fail to do that, your program will die and you will die with it, and your program will slip. I'm telling you, Florida State, that Seminole Nation, is coming on strong.
Clemson, they don't want to hear that down here at all, Brady. I mean, Rob,
I know.
It's not something we like to hear around here.
I know, but I'm saying Mike Norvell's a good coach.
No, listen, I acknowledge that, and we know they're already picked like 4th in the country for next year, and they had a great recruiting. They've done really well in the portal. Yeah. I didn't know these things were out there, but I guess they are. Somebody said they were ranked 2nd in the portal. Florida was like 64th or something in what they've done, although they pick up a kid here and there. Auburn's 3rd. So I'd like to have seen Billy be a little more active in the portal, but maybe he's got his plan, and maybe he's going to do it. By the way, we didn't talk. Did you guys talk about Golding going to Ole Miss?
Yeah, I was going to get to that next. Pete Golding, he lasted 4 years at Alabama, and
it's a long time.
Is that yeah, that is. I mean, look, you can only do 2 tours of duty back to back as a drill instructor at Paris Island, and there's a lot of reasons for that. If you can survive 4 years under Nick Saban, wow. Pete Golding, now he's going to be kind of out of that shadow, Maury. What do you think he does at Ole Miss? Partridge didn't do it. DJ Durkin was good in his 2nd year, but Ole Miss needs big-time help, but they got a lot of defensive linemen.
Hey, the key is, by the way, you got to be 25 years old, right?
Yeah.
Didn't Hendon Hooker just turn 25? I believe he did today.
Mark, how old is Hendon?
Yeah, and of course we know Stetson Bennett. So
I don't think he's old as Stetson, but he's
Stetson Stetson's probably working on his 26. So you got to go out and start looking for guys who are older. These 25-year-old quarterbacks. I guess the last one I remember is Chris Winkie. Wasn't he like 24 or something?
He's 28.
Wasn't when he already played, whatever it was.
He was 28 years old when he won the Heisman.
You talk about experience, there's your experience right there.
Well, I mean, how old would Jethro Bodine have been had he played in college football? He did the 6th grade 6 years. What did the 7th grade take him? 7 years? I mean, he'd have been in his 50s when he got to college. And Jethro would have been a great linebacker. He was strong. But, Mark, along the lines of what he's saying about Clemson, Florida State, Tennessee, how quickly has Joe Milton and Buddy, you probably covered him in the muck. That's what they call, Lake Okeechobee. He's from Pahokee, Florida. But Mark, I got to tell you, in that Clemson game, and you and I and Audrey were talking about it, we were watching it. I had Tennessee to win 28-14. I mean, they dominated the ACC champions. How big of a nightmare do you have about the South Carolina game? Does that drive you to drink Hamms?
It does. I mean, it does. Look, I don't know what happened there. Maybe that was, maybe we overlooked them. Maybe we were already putting ourselves, in the playoff. But South Carolina had a game of the century of their year. They definitely exposed us. Our secondary wasn't all that great. We make Spencer Rattler look like a Heisman Trophy candidate. But yeah, it does. It does. cause some pain for us. But I think they grow from it. I think they learn from it. I think, it'll drive them a little bit more. They got to come to our house next year. I think we'll beat them then. But I think we got a pretty good quarterback with Milton. I think they've
very good quarterback at Milton.
Yeah.
I'm impressed with him.
I think they worked on his overthrows. I think, when I saw one of the quarterback coaches talking about, he can throw it 60 yards on a rope, and that's what he was doing. And they said to him, look, just put a little loft on it and let the receiver get to the ball.
He's like Anthony Richardson, the same kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Take something off a 100-mile-an-hour fastball.
Yeah. And when he did that and he let the players go make a play, you notice the long ball was much better. So they've been working on his long ball and not just throwing a rope.
Yeah.
But,
I liked Mark Joe Milton III. Josh Heupel, put him up there with the late Mike Leach. I hate saying that. Lane Kiffin as these elite quarterback coaches. Josh Heupel's in that top 5.
Yeah.
Bobby Hill is who he is, King of the Hill. That's who he is. But he's an incredible quarterback.
Did he throw that orange 100 yards? Really?
Yeah. 100 yards. Yeah.
I mean, look, there's, and here's something that just came in from Ira Hayes. Ira Hayes just texted this in, said, the fact that Pete Golding lasted 4 years at Alabama without being hired away confirms that he was average. Well, sorry, Ira Hayes, but, maybe that 4 years he was there, he didn't want to go anywhere. Maybe he had a kid that wanted to finish high school. I don't know. But Mark, buddy, I got to say this before we close out. The big picture of college football is right now we're in a crazy spot, NIL, portal, and all that stuff. And if you know how to manage a roster today, you're going to succeed as a coach. I mean, that's just absolutely the way it's going to happen. Say this real quick, too. We got about 5 minutes left. Most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us. We live in the greatest country in the world, people. Go out and make a difference every day. Put a to-do list by your bed before you go to bed at night. Take your kids hunting. Take them fishing. Ted Nugent said it best. Take your kids hunting so you don't have to go hunting for your kids. Got a lot of people out there deer hunting, duck hunting. Doug Dean in the deer stand said he was going to try to join in on the round table this morning if he bagged a buck early. He's bow hunting this morning down around Selma in a cool, frosty morning. But we have solved most of the world's problems. But I'm going to close out with, Buddy, several people have been asking me about the quarterback situation at Florida. I know you addressed it earlier, but Wesley Duncan down in Fort Lauderdale said, does he really think it's 13 million or anywhere close to that? And if that's true, he says they've lost their minds. The kid, as a 4-star quarterback, can command that kind of money. What is the total budget for the Gator football NIL?
I have no idea. And like I said earlier, this is like time reporting the shadows. And by the way, it sounds like funny money. I don't know. But listen, maybe it's real. I don't know. I mean, there's lots of look at the money people are look at quarterbacks, what they're getting. It's $5-6 million to play college football. I don't have any idea. If you do the math and just say, and you guys might know this more than me. I mean, what's the going rate for a 5-star quarterback these days in NIL money? Would you say $3 million would be a reasonable amount of money? I don't know.
God.
If that's the case, then times 4 is 12. That makes about 13 million. I have no way to prove that or disprove it. It sounds absurd, but you know what? There's a lot of absurd things going on right now. But I want to get to one thing real quick, if I can. Mention Mike Leach. I love this story. The other day, Billy Napier, by the way, walked up. There was a guy looking in the window, and Billy said, "You want to go inside?" He said, "Yeah." He took him inside and showed him the whole thing from the inside. Great story. People, social media loved it. That's the kind of thing you like to see. Mike Leach was in his office one day. This guy was on Feinbaum. This guy drove up in a hot rod, all decked out. He went inside and said, "I want to tell Mike Leach about that car I got. I want to take him for a ride." And the receptionist almost laughed at him. They went back and asked him, and sure enough, Leach came out and said, let's go downtown Lubbock and get a Coca-Cola. He got in that car, rode around with that guy, got a Coca-Cola, came back 30 minutes later. Who does that kind of thing anymore? It's what makes these coaches human. If they just would understand, that's what we want to see. It's a great story. R.I.P. to the great Mike Leach.
Absolutely. I'm totally with you. And this is a This came from Todd Rundgren down in, let's see, where is Todd Rundgren from? Fort Myers, Florida. Said, I love GatorbaitMedia.com. Ask Buddy Martin, because he likes you, obviously. He said, ask Buddy where he thinks AR, Anthony Richardson, will be drafted. First round, second, third, free agent. I mean, after all is said and done, where do you think he'll end up?
Total guess, I think first round. I would guess lower first round, but I've heard projections are top 15. I'm thinking he's a first rounder. He's raw talent. Going to take a while, but I would say first round.
Okay. Todd Rundgren. Y'all remember that guy?
He sang a good song, right?
Absolutely. I love some of these listeners we get.
Yeah.
We had Levon Helm from Turkey Scratch, Arkansas. Remember the band? Holy cow, up on Cripple Creek. Yo, man, take a load off, Fatty. I mean, it's great stuff. But look, I tell you what I'm seeing today. We got college basketball coming up. We got the NFL playoffs coming up. We've got about mid-February, and I'm not sure which SEC school starts spring practice first, but the support group will meet Monday through Saturday. 2 hours, 6 days a week, sidelines.live. Catch us on 680thefan.com, the podcast park, Kicks 96.3, Alexander City, Lake Martin, Alabama. Beautiful, beautiful 750 miles of shore. But we are here to serve you. Send us your questions. We'll try to get you answers. But we talk about college football, college sports. That's what we do. That's who we are. We don't get into all that other stuff. We are your respite, okay? But I'll say this. I really believe that going forward, you're going to start seeing more and more people realize we like football. We like college football to be college. So anything that makes college more like pro sports, as Granny said on the Beverly Hillbillies, I'm again it. Boy, you better listen to your granny. What's for supper? Deviled hawk eggs, hog jowls, and deviled hawk eggs. That's what you do. Anyway, great show, everybody. Have a great weekend. God bless America. Go help somebody. Go find some excuse to win. We are out of here.